was in the way. Okay. Hey guys, if you here, come on. You get the Facebook put up. Okay. Come on in and join us. We ready. I got it. Thank you. How y'all doing today? So y'all, guess what? We are live for the 5th week today. Let me get myself comfortable real quick. I gotta have my back together here. Okay. All right, guess what, y'all? We are live today on YouTube. We are live today on TikTok and Facebook. I wish I had some special effects. Like, yay! I'm telling y'all, God is doing some big things, big things. I want y'all just to come on in and let me know who's on the feed. Shout out y'all names. I got people controlling the feeds. Let me know who's here with me today. How y'all doing today? I hope y'all had a good day, y'all. It's been so hot these last couple of days. But I'm just going to dive into it because we got a lot of information that we just want to give y'all today. And it is a good topic. Let me introduce myself first. I am Crystal Majors. I am the founder of Walking Through the Fire LLC. I told y'all we was official. Again, we are here just to mentor, support, make the enemy out to be a liar, take some blinders off of your eyes, and to build a community where we can just support each other. So every week I want to do something different. So today, I got in the house with me, Kimberly Majors Chrisman. Give it up for her on today, y'all. Give me some hand claps in the feed. Y'all, if y'all late, that's okay. Just come on in because we start on time. What they say? Was it early is on time and late is, did I say that right? Late. It's late. It's late. Okay. So again, I am a grief advocate. I've worked in the healthcare system for 10 years. I'm a minister of the gospel. I have a PhD in life. Yeah, you heard what I said. PhD in life. And I know I'm not the only one. I know it's some of you out there that have a PhD as well. We have been talking about generational curses. And so just to do a recap, like I said, this is the 5th week. Or is this the 4th week? I don't.
It feels like 5.
It does feel like 5. It is 5 because one of the discussions we had to kind of carry over a little bit. So even though it's week 5, we are kind of into the generational behaviors and patterns and sometimes curses of step 4, let's call that. So just to give you a quick recap, week 1, we talked about emotional instability. Week 2, we talked about the hereditary family sickness. Week 3 and 4, which was a great discussion, we talked about dysfunctional sexual behaviors and patterns. I think that was a really, really good conversation. And this week, our topic is, like I said, unhealthy relationships. So before I get started and move any further with my guest, Miss Majors Chrisman.
Just call me Kim.
Just call you Kim. Yeah. Kim, I always like to pray. Whether you are a believer or non-believer, I believe that prayer works. I believe that when you start to delve into generational patterns and things, and you're trying to be the one to step out and break that curse or break that pattern, sometimes the devil don't want you to get out your zone. Because you belong to him. He don't want you to change. He wants you to be dysfunctional. He wants you to have lack. He wants you not to be committed to things because that works in his favor. What they say, it is strength in numbers. Mm-hmm. So I like to pray ahead of time just to make sure that we are covered and that we are ready to receive what thus saith the Lord, what my PhD in life has to say. And if I have a guest, what our guests have to say as well, and just glean off of their expertise and knowledge as well. So let's pray. Father, in the name of Jesus, I thank you, oh God, for allowing us to be able to have a platform where we can come to you once again, just asking that you guide us as we walk through this thing called life. Order our steps, oh God. I ask that you remove the scale off our eyes, take the plugs out of our ears, and dishearten our hearts, that we're able to receive the change and the information that you want us to have. Lord, as we go through these episodes, I just ask a special blessing over everybody that comes into these feeds, that they are protected, that you keep them and you guide them, because trouble don't last always. Lord, we give you all the glory and honor. Thank God and amen. All right. So the first thing I do want to say is, this is walking through the fire. Listen, I don't need nothing from y'all, just for y'all to soak up what God has given me. But if it falls on your heart that you want to sow a seed, whatever platform you're on, if it's TikTok, if it's Facebook, YouTube, there is a button at the bottom where you can either sow a seed, you can send some coins. TikTok, you can give me some roses, you can give me some emojis. If it falls on your heart, please have the opportunity. You can do it throughout this live. Other than that, I think we're gonna roll. You ready?
Let's do it.
Y'all ready? Put in the comments if you ready. Put in the comments if you ready. So our topic is unhealthy relationships. And when we talk about relationships, I don't want you to get the notion that we're talking about male and female, or that intimate part when we talk about relationships. You have relationships within your family, you have relationships within your friends, and you have the relationships when you have a partner. And I think that there are some significant behaviors and patterns that, no matter if it is platonic or intimate, that we just have to follow. I don't want to call them rules, but unwritten
Best
rules.
practices.
Best practices. Okay, yeah, I like best practices. So I guess my first question to y'all that I need y'all to help me with, and I'm going to try my best to look to see what the answers are. When I talked about relationships, I thought about this generation now. Now we're talking about different generations. Do people even call that these days relationships? Or is it called something else before we get started? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, and this part, I guess I'm talking about when you have a partner. Or we're going to get into this, when you call it dating. Do they call it relationships anymore? Like, hey, me and you in a relationship.
It'd be interesting to see what everybody else has to say, but I hear everything.
Do you?
You know, I have a junior in college, I have a junior in high school, and so you hear them saying, "Oh, I'm talking to that person.
Yeah.
I'm pulling up on that person."
Yeah, yeah.
You know, some say relationships. Yeah. Some, you know, that's just my friend.
I was just about to say, or we just kicking it.
Yeah, kicking it.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's just for people. Yeah. Did we tell our age? Yeah.
Hey.
But let me know what real quick. I'm going to give you about 10 seconds. Is it called something else? You can say no. If it is, then tell me what it is, and I'll try my best to relate that as we go through this, so you won't be confused about the type of relationships that we're talking about. Okay. But for now, we're going to call it coupling.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Because y'all new age is, we friends with benefits, or you don't even call them friends with benefits no more. You just say friends. Mm-hmm. And then, yeah. And so we just going to call it coupling. Okay. Good. So the first thing that I want to delve into is what we call coupling, Kim. Okay. Kim. And I got like 3 sections in this, because when we talk about coupling, it's so much underneath that umbrella. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And let me just say, you know, again, I'm not here as some expert or whatnot. I have some knowledge in 3 different areas. Mm-hmm. Undergraduate, I studied psychology. Graduate school, I studied marriage and family therapy.
Okay.
I worked at the YWCA as a domestic violence counselor and advocate, and I've been an ordained minister for over 25 years. And so I've had to counsel and deal with individuals based on relationships.
Okay. And what I will also say that is interesting about Kim is she's traveled the world. And so she's traveled outside of the United States. I think I recall you being a flight attendant at one point of your life. They gave you an opportunity to see different backgrounds and different cultures and ethnicities. And so compared to how we do things in the Western civilization or the United States, I think that outlook will give us a lot of insight on just not our small box of what we see. Sure. So the first thing y'all want to tackle is, and we're talking about coupling, okay? I want y'all to be truthful with me. We talking about getting together too soon.
Yeah.
So when you're in a relationship and you get with somebody really soon, which means that you only know them for a brief moment of time before you say, are you my boyfriend? Or are you my girlfriend? Or use those terms as we kicking it, or that's my friend. Because I think when you're a woman, it may be different for men, but when you're a woman, to get that label, whether we're saying boyfriend or girlfriend, or because some people be like, this is my old lady. This my old man. If you got one of them boyfriends or girl, they be like, this my old man, this my old lady. I can remember in my 20s, I was going with somebody and it was his term. It was, this my old lady. Yeah. And my little young butt be like, yep, I'm his old lady.
Proud. Totally proud.
Yeah. I'm his old lady now at my old age. I'm like, don't call me no old lady. Okay. But getting together too soon, and the effects sometimes of getting together too soon the effects is it only lasts for a minute. It only lasts for a minute. And so meaning we get with people, we move in with them, or we shack up with them. We don't know.
Or we become intimate too quickly.
That part. And we're going to talk about that.
It's all of that.
Yeah. Because women, we are emotional. We are nurturers. Men, they are visuals. Men, I ain't going to leave you out. I hope you on my feed. We ain't going to leave you out today, because this just doesn't affect women. This affects men. It affects us in different ways, but it affects us all the same. And I think you'll hear how it affects women more, because we tend to communicate a little bit more. Now, I ain't saying that communication is always great, but we tend to tell you how we feel and tell you what we think. I pray y'all, if y'all can hear me, thumbs up, whether it's on TikTok, Facebook, YouTube. I just want to know we still in the right place. I want to make sure y'all don't miss none of this. This is a question that could be repetitive or rhetorical, or you can answer it for me. Am I the only one by myself that believes that you meet people as representatives the first 6 months to a year?
Mm-hmm. We used to call it the fart stage.
The fart stage? Okay.
It's like, when you first meet somebody, you won't pass gas in front of them.
Okay. Well,
we'll never do that. But it's to signify or symbolize that you begin to feel comfortable around somebody.
Do y'all don't care if y'all fart around people, y'all just know.
So it's like, once you get to the point where you feel comfortable, burping in front of them or passing gas in front of them.
Right.
And that means y'all really comfortable with each other.
Gotcha. Yeah, I can see that.
Totally inappropriate.
So using the bathroom with the door open type stuff.
Yeah,
I like that.
Some of us will never be there. We will never.
I know.
Do any of those things in front of other people.
As I say, and I know when I was growing up, I wouldn't say fart, but I know for us women, we didn't want to eat in front of a man. Mm-hmm. So we would order a salad or something. I don't think that's ever been my forte.
Or we call it the honeymoon stage.
Yeah, the honeymoon stage.
Yeah, that's absolutely one. Yeah. You're on your best behavior because you want people to see you in a certain light so that they come back. They call you again. Especially if you like them.
Yeah. And first impressions is everything. Would you agree, guys? First impressions is everything. Mm-hmm. And I think that if you haven't been using this rule or you haven't been heard this, you meet people's representative the first 6 months to a year. Mm-hmm. And I'm a firm believer. I tested it out myself. After about that 6 month or a year, you tend to see by then, if you are really spending time with people, you have gotten to a disagreement. If you tell me you hadn't got into a disagreement or argument and you're in a relationship with somebody, you're lying. You're lying.
You've seen somebody go through stress.
Yeah.
Or whatever the case, might be within that period of time.
Yeah. And so does their mood change? Does how they treat you change? How they speak to you when they upset with you? Do they get to calling you out every name in the book? Or I'm even pushed the envelope that first time that they hit you.
Well, now this is how I think you can tell that you've met somebody's representative and not really them. If after a period of time, all of a sudden they do something and you're like, you never saw that happen. There were never any red flags. And people say, oh, they had to have said something or did something that would give you, you just didn't want to see the red flag. You didn't want to notice it. Yeah. That's not necessarily true.
That is true.
It could be the representative.
That's true.
Was showing up. And you just got introduced to the real person.
And I've been through domestic violence before.
Sure, me too.
And so it's one of those where people have to be really careful about, oh, they are stupid for staying. Why? People don't start out whooping your tail.
That's right.
Okay?
That's right.
They start out loving you. They start out buying you flowers, opening doors.
Earning your trust.
Earning your trust. That's good. And again, making you feel safe to fart around. Just
you're not gonna leave that.
I'm sorry, y'all. Making you feel safe, and then that's when, and it may even start out little. They may start shaking you or snatching you, and you've never seen that because maybe they haven't gone through that stress or whatever. But talking about that, we have to be realistic and be mindful that there are results and effects, cause and effect to getting with someone that you really don't know about, and you jump into a relationship. And we're not even talking about sex right now, okay? You're just jumping into a relationship because some people, would you agree, they are tired of being alone. And so they just want somebody to love them. And so sometimes they don't ask the questions that they need to ask. A lot of times we sit around and we have superficial conversations. Question: when is it too soon do you think, to have a conversation about like the things that are not superficial? Meaning, because I don't even want to say, have you ever, what happened in what happened in your last relationship? And what did I don't know nobody that normally says, well, I was the cause.
I was a bully.
Yeah. I was abusive. My last girlfriend said, I didn't communicate enough. A lot of times they always maybe blame the other person. Would you think?
Sure.
I have come across a person where they said, I was the cause, I was a cheater. Do you think it's too soon within a week or so to ask those pertinent questions? Because personally, I don't want to waste my time, but then I don't want to run somebody off with asking on the first date, how's your mama doing? Who your mama? What your family tree look like? You got diabetes? What your bank account look like? You got a 401k?
They are.
You got a list.
Calling you They might get up to go to the restroom and not come back.
Yeah, sabotaging my own happiness because I don't know the time and place. So what is your thoughts about that?
I would not say that there's any one way to do it. But what I would say, the first date is probably not the right one.
Okay.
I think you want to hold off until you even determine whether this is somebody that you want to get to know better.
Okay.
And sometimes, because just like you're asking them for information, they're going to ask you for that information too.
Yeah.
And
sometimes they, if they know how to communicate.
Or if they're really interested in proceeding further with you. And so I think you really want to wait until you determine, am I interested in this person enough that this relationship is going to go beyond, 2 dinners and a movie.
Right.
So if you think at the point where you say,
or a movie in the bed.
Yeah.
Okay.
And let's keep it real.
Yeah.
Sometimes that one night tickle is really all you need. And if you just decide to make those types of choices for yourself, then okay.
I ain't never
just protect yourself and move on.
Yeah.
But at least you're making that choice intentionally.
Right.
with consent and whatever the case might be. But once you get to the point where you say, you know what, I really kind of am digging this person that I'm talking to and that I'm spending time with. I want to know more. I think this could be more. Then you can start asking those questions. And sometimes you know that in a week. Sometimes it might take 2 weeks, depending on how much you're talking, how much time you're spending with each other. You really kind of have to fill it out. But the key is to ask those questions and to find out that information.
And I think those non-superficial questions need to be asked before you say, this is my man, this is my woman, or you trying to put a ring on it, and then you don't know who you're dating or who you're marrying because you didn't ask those substantive questions before you got it, before you leap that broom.
Let me ask you this. Do you believe in love at first sight?
Wow, that is deep. And I'm gonna say, probably for me, no, because I lead with my head and not my heart. Does that make sense? Like, I will think myself out of a good relationship. And when I say that, meaning that I will negate how I feel, but I think that comes with experience too. Now, if I was in my 20s, I'm sure it was a lot of guys, it was love at first sight, but it was really lust at first sight and not love.
There's a difference.
Because we have to make sure that we even know the correct meaning of love. Because everybody's love or perception or description or definition of love is two different things.
Well, and I asked the question, and I want to make 2 points. The first is, if you are a person that believes in love at first sight, you still need to ask those questions.
Yeah.
You still need to go through that process to anchor that love in more than just this moment of connection that feels powerful and energetic and right, and really anchor it into something that can be sustainable.
Yeah.
And then the other thing, reason I say this, because there are people that believe in love at first sight, and we shouldn't judge. If we don't believe in it, because I know some people, two couples come to mind who knew each other for like 6 months, and one couple ended up getting married, and they're still married to this day. And I'm talking 30 years later. And then I know a couple who got together after 6 months. One person moved from a totally different state to another state to be with this person, and they just got married. And it's been like a year and a half since they met. So it can work, and we need to be cautious about us judging, what is too soon, but recognizing and having this conversation is important to at least be aware of it and what things need to happen, regardless of whether it's 6 weeks, 6 months, or 6 years. Because there's some people that have been in relationships for 6 years and haven't asked those questions that you posed.
Or you've been in a relationship for 6 years and you get divorced, and the person that just met them 3 months ago, they've been married for 30 years. I think you hear that a lot, like back in the day. I hate to say back in the day, but people that are older than me, that say, I knew that was my person soon as I laid eyes on them. I do think that you get a feeling like, ooh, this may be my person. But when you say love at first sight, like, I think it's lust at first sight. But when I have a conversation with them and I'm like, ooh, this is my person, I could really fall in love like really quick. So what does first sight actually literally means? I don't know if it literally means, guys, at first sight.
I'm with you.
Yeah. Because you can be attracted to the finest man and the finest woman, but they soul is dirty and ugly. Because you got some some beautiful women, but when they open their mouth and what comes out makes them look trash, makes them look, toned down. Okay, so talking about coupling and getting together too soon, and I want to talk about some of the effects that are seeds, and even if you don't have kids, think about how you grew up. And so some of the things that we can come across with getting with people too soon is you arguing all the time. And I'm not talking about a ordinary argument. I mean, because again, remember in the beginning I said, when you're in a relationship, You have disagreements. You have arguments. It's how you just have to fight fair. Everybody fights, but you have to do it fair and respectful.
That's right.
And respectful. And so when you find yourself arguing about why you leave your socks on the floor, but did you take the time to go to their house and see if they cleaned up and how to? Ooh. Come on now, y'all listening to me. I forgot about y'all. I want y'all to talk back to me. Have you ever been in a relationship and you thought it was A-okay, and then when you moved with that person, you was like, oh, I didn't know you lived like this.
Or you saw it.
And you
saw it then. But I guess you thought it was going to change.
That part.
When
that part.
You talking about why you left your socks on the floor. Well, my socks been on the floor since day one when you left me.
Yeah, you're right about it. And then what does that do? That argument turns into something bigger, or because some of us don't know how to communicate, some of us don't say nothing until something else big happens, and now it's a big blow up. And when I come to you, Kim, saying, well, I don't like that you said you didn't want, Crystal, get out the bed. But here I am not focusing on the issue at hand. And I say, well, last week you didn't pick your socks up off the floor. That type of stuff.
Well, I mean, it really goes back to what you said before. When you get together with somebody sooner than we're talking about, too soon, let's just say too soon, you don't necessarily develop the communication skills or understand how they communicate.
That's good. That's right? Good how they communicate.
Because you don't see them, like you said, in these different situations to understand. Have you seen them get angry? Have you really taken an opportunity to think about how do they process information? Are they somebody that talks about their feelings? Are they somebody that keeps their feelings to themselves? Are they somebody when they get upset, they need a minute to go through that and then they can talk about it? Are you somebody just want to talk about it right then and there, and then you got conflict? You're so busy trying to get your point made that you're not always thinking about what's the communication style of the person that I'm trying to have this conversation with.
I agree. I agree. It's a lot of variables in that. With that being said, another thing that I think is even bigger than that, and that we can attach what I'm about to say to some other things as we go along in talking about unhealthy relationships, is unrealistic expectations. I don't know about y'all, and I think it happens, and I can be wrong. Men tell me, or women tell me, my community tell me, I think women have the most unrealistic expectations there is. And I think that goes back, and talk to me. I think that goes back to how society has always told women, this is how you should live your life. You grow up, you have a career, you have kids, you get married, and you live happily ever after. And sometimes because society has wired us like that, or that's all we've ever seen in our family dynamics, is to say, this is what I know I'm supposed to do. But sometimes I think we are infatuated with the thought of being married, and not so much as what it takes, the work it takes. And so we walk in thinking, okay, I'm going to have a good honeymoon. He going to change, or she's going to change when we get married, signing your name on that dotted line. And then when they don't meet our expectations, then our hopes and our dreams fall apart. And then for us as women, when the thought of what we thought it should look like, then that's when we have a problem. What do you have to say on unrealistic expectations?
I think that's a big one. And I think that if you do some research, there is definitely some statistics that support having unrealistic expectations is a contributor to dysfunction in a marriage, in a relationship. But what I would speak to is that it's just women. Men too have an idea of what that marriage or what that relationship.
I don't want to interrupt you, because sometimes it could be my wife needs to submit to everything that I say and do. So
absolutely. But I would say, where do we come up with these ideas about what marriage is supposed to look like? Television. And we don't, you never, sometimes you saw, the Huxtables, go at it a little bit, but not really.
Mm-hmm.
Leave It to Beaver, whatever show you want to peg.
Yeah.
That's your idea of what marriage is, especially if you don't live in a home where there is marriage
or a relationship. Because I can remember Martin used to come on at 8:00 every Sunday. Baby, him and Gina had the most loving, fun. Who wouldn't want a relationship where your boyfriend or girlfriend is your best friend? But TV is so unrealistic because it didn't show us when they got into arguments. Sometimes they did,
but they didn't talk about what tools and skills they were using to be able to have that. And so, I look at my own relationship, previous relationship, and I had a relationship where the gentleman in that relationship expected our relationship to be like his parents' relationship.
That's huge.
And they were married for almost 50 years. And while they had a loving relationship, he definitely wore the pants in the family. Right. She was a stay-at-home mom. And I wasn't that way. I was a career woman. It was like all of those things that caused you to choose me. Being smart, being independent, being opinionated, being communicative, all of a sudden became things that you didn't like.
He regretted you for it.
Because he expected me to act like the wife figure that he has seen growing up.
Yeah. And I want to put a pin right there because then later in the discussion, we're going to talk about it because it could even be that your parents' marriage failed.
Yes.
And so it affected you to say, that ain't for me. That ain't for me.
So he had an expectation. I had an expectation. Gender roles. You expect the wife to do this, or the female in the relationship to do this, the male in the relationship to do that. But what happens if your relationship doesn't fit that mold?
That's right.
And even if you try to live your relationship the way you choose to, then you got all these other outsiders going, wait a minute. Why are you taking the trash out and he's doing the dishes? Why is he cooking?
Yeah.
Even if it's making you guys happy.
Yeah. But what I would say to that as well as guys, people going to have something to say anyway. Whether you into it with your spouse or your significant other or your friend or y'all doing good, it's, well, what they doing? I know it ain't that cheesy over there or not that great. You never know what's going on behind closed doors. So, what I would say to that, and just to kind of move the conversation along, because when I tell y'all, we're going to have to do this in 2 parts, because it looked like it's almost 6:40 already, and we on the same, just 6:30 something, and we're on the same thing, is just, I want you to understand that when you get into relationships too soon, 80% of that, you've had sexual intimacy already, okay? And so what happens when you didn't use that time to get to know each other? Because everybody don't have the same thing as they grow up. People have sexual issues, or you may have issues where you're not able to participate in sexual activities. What do you have if all you've ever had was superficial conversations and sex mixed into that? And then for us women, and men too, I want y'all to tell me if I'm lying. Once I've given myself to you, that opens me up for more her, because now I've given you my heart and I've given you my body.
And usually what comes with that type of connection is you also start to talk about your dreams, your intimate, vulnerable pieces of information.
Yeah.
And then if you go in and share that stuff too soon and the relationship doesn't work, then what happens to that intimate information that you've given this person that you really didn't know very well?
I really want to, I got to move, but I wanted to say I was in a relationship before. And it's funny that you say that because it was so much of a strong sexual attraction, we never had deep conversation. So
you don't know nothing about that.
Yeah. So what happens because sometimes the sexual tension could be so strong that like when you get together, y'all just can't help but put your hands on each other to the point where that leaves no room for talking.
Sure.
And then when you do, it's not those sit down and let me know what your plan is. You know, do you
don't
want
make
kids?
room for talking?
No, other kind of talking, y'all. You know what I'm saying? Oh, we can talk. Yeah. And again, because that time with just sitting and enjoying each other's company is occupied by now this other thing that we have introduced that just consumes us because the attraction is just so strong.
All the intimacy is about sex. That's it.
And then you don't know the relationship was nothing about sex until it's over and you're trying to figure out why you're picking the pieces up with your heart. Why your leg is in Oklahoma and your butt is in Nebraska, and because you've been giving pieces of your body away when you're having these intimate relationships. I watched, if y'all ever get a chance, it's Old But Juanita Bynum's the threshing oh gosh.
Sheets.
Yeah, no more sheets. It's called No More Sheets. When I tell you that woman dissected that thing down about being with somebody too soon and what you give them.
Soul ties.
Yeah. And you like, our sex life is great, but your relationship is unhealthy because he don't know how to talk to you. And then he
don't even know your middle name. You don't know his favorite cover. You ain't met his family.
You ain't met his family. Yeah. And thinking he gonna boo you up though. If you ain't met his family, baby, you talking about putting a ring on that. I don't know. Yeah.
Maybe not his family, but you have not met one of his friends?
Y'all, is it important? I'm going to say yes. Because then that tells me you ain't had me like the people under the stairs. Okay? Because, hey, I used to have some people like that. Now, I had my, here, there, God to deliver me. So I had some that I took outside. I had some that I only stayed in the house with.
Night.
Yeah. And I had some that I only creeped around with at the 12 o'clock because wasn't nobody going to see us. So, okay, I'm going to jump off. Yeah, off subject. But moving on, because I want to talk, guys, with you about another part to that, and that is being too young of an age. Being too young. Meaning, I want to make sure that I'm being politically correct and not vulgar or anything like that, but just because you hit puberty, whether that's man or boy or girl, that don't mean you grown. Or
you got hair on your lip, your pits, and your private.
Yeah, I like that. Come on, lips, pits, and private. That don't, you know what I mean?
And that go for the girls too.
Yeah. Because sometimes the girls age faster than boys, and we'll have hair underneath our underarms and on our private before it be 9 years old. Yep. I got 3 daughters. Baby, you be surprised. I'm like, what are you doing with that? You too young to have that. Then raising girls, because you have boys, and we'll get to that as well. But raising girls or any teenagers, when they hit that preteen, that 11, 12, they start smelling themselves and thinking, okay, I'm going to do what I want to do. When they get that 14, 15, 16, it's like, I'm grown. You can't tell me what to do. But how grown are you? Well, go ahead.
At what age should you as a parent allow your child to date? Or have a relationship?
What I vowed was my girls, because they're girls, and if they get pregnant, the baby's coming home with the girls and the mama. So I had to navigate maybe a little different than what you do. And so I didn't want my daughters to be so, or me be overprotective where I didn't recognize. I mean, we had to grow up. You know what I mean? And so we can't forget what age it was that we were looking at boys. And did our mother say you couldn't talk to boys on the phone? Because I had some friends, they were 17. They still couldn't talk on the phone with boys. Or they would have to get off the phone with boys at 9 o'clock because they were in high school or whatnot. And so I didn't want to be that parent because I felt like then my daughters would be still in my car at night. You know why I'm asleep? Because, baby, when I'm asleep, I'm asleep. And I sleep with my door closed. So I would never know if you were still in my car. Or you're sneaking boys in and out the window. I don't know nothing about that growing up. I'm just saying we all got a PhD in life. I told y'all, mind your business. We here talking to real people about real experiences. Help me out, community. Okay, don't be stuffy. But I just didn't want my girls to have to sneak around. So I think it varied with all of them because all of them were mature at a different age. All three of them weren't mature at 10 or 11 or 16 or 15. But what I did do at 14, if you liked a young man, I don't want you to sneak around. I'm going to give an opportunity where they can come over to the house. I can sit in the front room. I'll fix y'all popcorn. We'll do movies. You know, if y'all want to go somewhere together, okay, I'm going to go with you. I think 15, 16 is maybe when.
Because freshman year of high school is usually 14.
Yeah. So probably about that 15 and 16, I started to say, hey, it was, Mama, can I go out on a date? Well, where are you going? Because then that would limit what you did. But I had good daughters to where when they told me something, I can trust them. They weren't like me telling my mama I was over my friend's house and I was really on Udale, Clifton, running the block, okay, acting a fool. So I think that's kind of my thing. When it comes to boys, what do you say? Because you got teenage boys.
I don't really think anything is different. When both my boys, they're 4 years apart, and so a lot can happen in society. Cultures can change a lot in 4 years. But fortunately for me, it really didn't. When they were in middle school, so that's, 12, 13 years old, they could call girls on the phone and have conversations on the phone.
Yeah.
They would go to the basketball game or the football game and meet the little girl.
Yeah.
Once they got to like their freshman year of high school or whatnot, they might want to go to a movie or something. I would take them, drop them off. I can remember one situation where I went to the movie, like one of the movies in the theater. I didn't really leave. But like you, I had good kids. They had always been, very respectable. And I had instilled in them from a very, very early age, you can tell me anything. You're going to get in trouble if you lie to me.
Right.
Now, I may not like what you do, but you for sure going to be in that much more trouble if you ever lie to me. And so that freshman year or whatnot is when I might let them come over. They had to hang out in the living room. As they started to get a little bit older, they could go over, somebody else's house, but I was making sure parents were there.
Yes, ma'am.
I was calling parents to see if they were going to be there. Even my older son, when he was a senior in high school, he had been dating the same girl for a couple of years. And I would let, I had a rule that they couldn't be in the bedroom. But his dad, we were divorced by then, he let them go. Did he? In the bedroom. But I did not. So I came home one day and they were in the bedroom.
Was the door closed?
The door was open.
Okay, I was about to say, because I let my kids do that as long as that door stayed open, but they had to be a certain age.
And I have a 2-story home.
Yeah.
So you upstairs, I got to travel a long way to see what you're doing.
I got time to hear mama coming up the stairs.
Exactly. So no. You're not doing that.
Yeah, I can see that. And I had a wrench. So, it was one of these. I could look and see that door closed. Or, when you got mama ears, you can hear ain't no noise going on. So, you like, wait a minute, what's going on? Okay. And so, when we talk about being too young, and remember, we're talking about unhealthy relationships. When you're too young, and we're going to talk about your family dynamics is dysfunctional. For a girl, the first boy that tells you, hey, you look cute, or whisper sweet nothings in your ear. Now, here I am going back to now I'm with somebody too soon. And I'm having relationships with them, not fully understanding the responsibilities that come with that. And which now is creating unhealthy relationships because kids are too young to understand some of the things that you have to go through and how to handle those situations in relationships. And for boys, it's one of those, they do it, and I want to say maybe jump into having sex at an early age because they're trying to be cool, or they around guys that are talking about having sex. And even though they are virgin to their core, they don't want to be teased or talked about. or sometimes they get teased so much it forces them to have to do that. As well as you hear all the time, sometimes men taking their sons to brothels or getting prostitutes, and I'm gonna make sure you a man. And sometimes that man maybe
they call them brothels?
No, I don't think so. Well, it depends on where you live at.
Old.
The whole house, I don't know where the cat house, the house, I don't know. But and then that tends to expose somebody too young, and now you're 13 and you're running around here having sex because an adult didn't give you everything that happens or follows after that.
Well, I mean, think about it. When I was growing up, maybe I'm a little bit older than you, we didn't see sex on TV.
No, you didn't. Not like now.
We didn't see. I mean, when I was watching television, they didn't even sleep in the same bed.
Yeah. Oh wow.
Do you think of I Love Lucy? Ricky and old girl, they slept in separate beds. I think the Brady Bunch, they may have slept in the same bed.
But they really didn't show it though.
All you saw was her with the nightgown up to her neck, and they go, "Good night, Mike," and then she roll over. Yeah. Good Times. I think there might have been a couple of scenes where they were
laying in the bed talking, but
that was it. And so there was still this mystery about what sex even really was.
Yeah.
You went to sex education class, but now they are exposed to. They see everything.
Yeah, especially with internet.
Every position between every person or persons.
Honey, they Googling stuff I ain't never heard of.
And so not only is the exposure available so much earlier, the details and the how-tos
and the visuals
are available now.
Yeah. You had to go into the nasty stores to get magazines and stuff, and you had to be. I remember when it used to be Blockbuster in the back of the store. They used to have like these little panels, and it says, "Don't enter unless you're 21," and that's where the nasty section was. And I was young, baby. I was like, "Is Mama looking?" And we try to run back here and see some stuff, but that was as far as we got. And so I don't
have that exposure. Why would we not think that they would be curious?
Yeah,
or even feel like they were ready?
Yeah. And I don't want you guys to think that we're focusing on sex because this is bigger than sex, but we're talking about getting with people at a young age and not having the maturity or the experience to say, I need to sit down and not have a superficial conversation, or I don't need to be sexting a 13-year-old and I'm 13. I need to be asking, hey, can we go to the park? Or
how to have a disagreement or argument in a healthy,
And here we are having sex